You're listening to Copy Chief Radio. Get all the episodes and join the community at copychief.com.
Welcome, everybody. It's your buddy Kev. And my throat is still recovering from last week when we had an event here in town. And frankly, it was already a little rough. And then we did karaoke. And if you know me, when it comes to singing badly and loudly in front of people, I never shy away. And so you're getting the remnants of that abuse, but for a very good reason, because I'm here today with my great friend, Laura Belgray. I think this is Laura's fifth or sixth time on this podcast. She is also the person I've invited, and she's graciously agreed to speak at my events more than anybody else. It's because I'm just one of her biggest fans in the world. And everything she does is just so her and so brilliant. And I don't even like using that word because it gets thrown around. What's brilliant about what Laura does is it's like she ain't trying. I know she works hard, but she's just so herself. It's just good, consistently good. If you're not on her email list for some crazy reason, talkingshrimp.com. And if that doesn't alone point out how great she has to be to have a website name and a business name that makes no sense whatsoever for what she does. We've covered that story in past episodes, why it's called Talking Shrimp. But you'll be hearing a lot more about Laura, I think, on a much bigger scale than just in our world of marketing and self-development and all the other worlds that she's so appreciated in, because her book, Tough Titties, is launching today, June 13th. I'm telling you, I've already pre-ordered 5 copies of this book. And I know, because I've had the privilege of reading the PDF pre-launch version, that that's not enough copies. This is, I'm telling you, the kind of book everybody has been waiting for and never getting. We're going to talk to Laura about what the book is not, and then you're going to get some examples of what the book is. But I'm telling you, there's just not many people I can think of that I know and like, at least, that I wouldn't hand this book to them and have them talk about it to me endlessly while they read it. It's like nothing else I've ever read. And it's hilarious and it's real. And it's not trying to be anything it's not. It's just Laura being Laura. And so if you already like Laura, you're going to love this book. If you don't know Laura yet, I hope you will feel like you do after today and run to get this book. Laura Belgray, it is great to have you back.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Kevin. I feel like, well, we can end the podcast there. No, I love to. I'm excited to talk to you, but I think you have a sore throat. I have a sore smile. I just wore it out completely listening to you talk about me. Thank you.
I thought you were going to say because you've had to slap it on for all this media you're doing. That alone must be a little weird for you. It's funny because here's what's the thing. Reading the book, I don't even know if I want to say the title of chapter 9. You leave it all out there, but yet I still get the impression, even reading, I'll say secrets, because this is how you talk openly all the time, but you're still a private person. You're willing to share anything, but there is a limit to that. So just let's start there, because I just read the thing about the chapter about your boobs.
The titular chapter.
The titular chapter, which of course had to be there. The book is called Tough Titties. But what an interesting thing for a guy to read about what it's like for a girl to go through that and develop in ways they didn't expect or want to. You had twice breast reduction surgery and it didn't work. That's how determined your breasts are, Laura.
That's right. They kept growing. They grew back. They would not be told to stay small. Let's put it that way. They were too into, I guess, personal development to play small. They're like, go big or go home. And they went big. They would not go home.
But my wife's told me this. She is top heavy, let's say, and she's told me it's nice, but it's a drag. It's a lot of work. It's man, you don't realize you can't run. It's hard to run. It's hard to, like you pointed out, it shocked me. It always shocks me. And I don't mean this to be like, oh, I'm a nice guy. I can't believe the kind of things men say to women.
Oh, yeah.
Always about your breasts. And I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. My friends and I have a bet, are you a D cup? Yeah. Guys are not all guys, not all men. but some are not you, Kevin, but some are, yeah, real assholes and just feel licensed to say, to shout things on the street, comment on it. It's a public topic.
I get the construction worker, I'm sorry to stereotype, howling or whatever. It's like, okay. They've even portrayed that in commercials as a positive thing for a woman. You know what I mean? In some ways, but
thanks, fellas.
Thanks, guys. Really thoughtful. But one-on-one for a guy to approach you to want to comment on that, it always blows me away when I realize that women constantly deal with this, and I'm completely naive to it.
Yes. A little less as we get older. And it's like, hey, nothing to say about these when I walk past a construction site.
I'm going to try a new top tomorrow. Let's see where we can. Oh, man. All right. Let's talk about what this book is not, like I said, because I wonder how purposeful that was for you. Obviously, you weren't going to write some BS thing that needed to fit into a clean category. You're not a self-help person, but I was a little surprised at how much you were, you were still yourself in, major publisher book form. Was that a challenge for you to keep your voice in this?
Yes and no. Well, first of all, what it is not is the kind of book I am expected to write, or you or I are both expected to write in our line of work. You got to write a copywriting book or a marketing book or a personal development mindset book, something that leads back to your business and has like a QR code in the back. Like come take the quiz on my site and find out how tough your titties are. It's not that kind of book, and nor is it the kind of book that you like hand out to everyone at the insurance salesperson's conference. Everyone has a copy of Tough Titties under their chair to help you become a better leader to your team. So that is just not the kind of book that I wanted to write, even though I was told that was the kind of book I should write, not just for my business, to drive people to my business. It's like as a good back end tool or a business card, but also easier to sell to a publisher. And who knows, I might have had a big bidding war. I don't know if I had written the kind of like Paid to Be You or something that led to my business. But this is what I always wanted to write. My stories, a personal book. This is the kind of book I always wanted to write, and finally felt like I was in a position to sell it, even if most people wouldn't give me permission to write that. I got a lot of, when I queried agents, people saying the sample chapters are great, love the style of writing, the voice is there, but sorry that you need to be a really big celebrity to sell a book like this, to sell a book of personal essays or memoir. Sure, like Prince Harry, great. Wow. But Laura Belgray, not necessarily. And so it was a tough sell. And then in the writing of it, my editor did not want me to tone it down by any means. I found, there was one editor who liked the idea of it and saw it as a sellable book. So never did she say, oh, you're telling too much about yourself. The challenge for me was to tell all this stuff about myself and still give it some meaning that was satisfying to the reader, where I'm not just dumping all my shit on you and telling you everything about myself, but where you're like, why are you telling me all this? Right. How uncomfortable that is when somebody is just like just dishing out TMI. Like first time you meet them and they tell you all about their terrible ex-boyfriend and all the trauma they've had or whatever. Not that I have a lot of trauma in this book, but that kind of stuff. Right. So it was, the challenge was, as I shaped the book, was to find an arc to the whole thing, to the story as a whole, and then to each chapter, like why am I telling you this?
Yeah, that was the thing that really struck me, was it never crossed over into that self-indulgent feeling like I get from comics who are just like trying to play to the back of the room, right? It's like so annoying. It's like, you respect the reader throughout, but you also never preach, or you point out times where it's like, this might be the point where I give you a lesson on whatever. It's like, just didn't happen. Happen. There was never a gag moment. What always gets me is like, I'll read a book and the introduction's great. I'm like, I know this person. This person's great. Chapter 1, where'd they go? What is happening now? Right? It's just, you never lose that tone. And again, it's what people who already follow you should expect and do get from you. How calculated did that need to be? Did you set like guardrails to make sure that didn't happen? Or is it just a result of being you?
To make sure my voice didn't fall off?
No, to make sure you didn't all of a sudden get preachy or a little too heartfelt or.
I've never felt in a position to be preachy about pretty much anything, because I feel like I know the lesson here. Generally, when I'm giving a lesson, it's like, I know the lesson here should be this, but I still haven't actually accomplished that or absorbed it. I'm just telling you what I need to take away from this, or what I should have taken away. But instead, this is actually the message that I got, and that caused more bad behavior. So,
yeah. Also your memory. I mean, I think I've seen other people bring this up, the detail in the stories you share. Did you go pour through journals of your life? I mean, or you just remember all these things in such detail?
I wish that I had journals from all those times in my life. I had some. And actually, when I would start to dig into them, I'd kind of find myself getting in the weeds. It's like, I have to include all of this. Then I would overwrite or just try to shoehorn things in. I do have a really good memory for things that happened a long time ago. Now I really cannot remember what someone just told me. I can't remember their name. 1 minute later, I was like, oh shit, you just introduced yourself. What is your name again? But I can remember things that happened in 1985 really clearly.
Interesting. So many funny stories and literal laugh out loud moments. I told you I was on a plane when I first opened the PDF you sent me, and I was getting such strange look. I was literally slapping my knee. and I didn't realize it until I noticed people. Why do people keep turning around? I'm like, oh, it's me. But the one that just killed me, tell the story, please, about you're driving. You are a driver, but you hate to drive. Mm-hmm. And so you avoid driving. But you had to drive on the highway. You're with your boyfriend and your housemate who you had a crush on.
Yes. So, we're driving back from college into the city from Connecticut to New York on the Merritt Parkway, which is curvy and just 2 lanes and not much of a shoulder. And I was driving in the left lane, showing off. I was a fairly new driver, thinking I was hot shit. I'm like, oh, this guy I have a crush on is going to be really impressed that I'm in the left lane the whole way. We hear a cop car coming like, that's a terrible siren, but we hear them, like everyone's starting to pull over, and you hear them behind me going, pull over, pull over. And my boyfriend and the housemate are both saying, pull over. And I'm like, what? Where? I don't know where to pull over. I've never done this before. And they're like, I guess you're supposed to pull over to the right, but I was on the left and there was no shoulder. And you just hear, pull over. And then the cop car had to swerve around me. And once it passed me, like the whole highway heard that go, unbelievable. And that, that became a comedy callback for like the rest of my college life. Like everyone would be like, unbelievable. Who wants to ride with Laura? No hands go up, and you just hear someone go, unbelievable.
Oh man, this is so funny that he did that, like the fact that this cop was, he got to say into the intercom what we all say when we pass somebody who won't get out of the left lane. But he's got sirens. Oh my God. It's just it's so funny. Oh God.
Yeah. I haven't driven in now 20 years.
Wow.
I mean, I drove for a while. That didn't stop me because I had the car and I needed it in college, but I stopped because I'm not good at it.
Another alarming story, which I'm less shocked happens, was the cab driver.
Oh yeah. Right. So one thing that got me to drive, because I was bad at it from the get-go and took driver's ed in high school and flunked the test. And then I think went back a second time, flunked it again. I was just not a natural at it and decided like, I don't really want to drive. But then in college, it was really inconvenient at this college not to have a car, not to be a driver, especially because the different ways to get to college from the city were either a bus, which was disgusting. And I actually took a bus in the book. I took a Peter Pan bus that said slightly soiled on the side. It said Peter Pan slightly soiled, like that was its brand extension. And then true to form, like the bus stank, like dirty diapers. So that was one choice. The other choice was to take the train. And at the train station was like a half hour away from school. And you had to use the payphone and call a cab service. And then the taxi would take you. And this one time that I took the cab, the driver, the whole way from the train station to school, was getting more and more rapey, murdery, creepy in his conversation. He started off by saying, "Hey, you seem real nice." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And it's like, not like most of them people who go to your school, they're real snobs, real stuck up. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sorry to hear that." He's like, but you're not like that. You treat me like an equal. I'm like, "Oh yeah, we are equals." And it's like, most of them are probably Jews. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to inform him that I'm a Jew. And then he asks, "So you want to pull over somewhere? You're probably tired. We can pull over and you can rest." Wow. Like, absolutely not. No, thank you. I really have to get to school. It's like, we could grab a bite to eat, or like, no, I got people waiting for me. And I remember gripping the door handle, checking to see if it was locked in case I had to jump out and like roll onto the embankment.
A la Charlie's Angels. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, after that ride, I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to learn to drive.
Wow, man, that is. And again, frightening enough if you're today in the car with Uber running and people can follow you. You got nothing. You're just sitting in the back of this creep's car at the mercy of, wow. I mean,
no fun. There were no iPhones. There was no way to, nothing.
These kids today, they don't know what we went through.
They don't know
how any of us survived.
Mm-mm.
When you look back, because so much of this book it goes for really your whole life up to now. And so you do get sort of the business lessons and Laura's journey of how she came to have this 7-figure business and all this amazing success. But so much of it is focused back then, just the insecureness of young adulthood, teenagehood. But when you look back, because you and I are about the same age, and we think about how we grew up compared to how people grow up now, we all have I can't believe I survived stories, right?
Yeah.
Because we were out there, like you said, untethered in the great wild, compared to the helicopter parenting that goes on today. Are you like, we lost a few, but it was worth the battle?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, when I see the kind of parenting that goes on today, it does make me sad, especially in New York City, because we roamed free. And I loved when I was first allowed to take the bus by myself at age 10. And my mom would give me money, and she would give me money to go to Rockefeller Center and ice skate and get hot chocolate with my friends. But instead we would take that money, take a different bus down to Times Square and play video games in the CD arcade where perverts and pimps, milled about and probably rubbed up against us. And parents now are like, no, you are not crossing the street by yourself until you are 18 years old, young man. And people, they have nannies till they're like 20. And parents will say, well, you don't understand. The world's so much more dangerous now. I'm like, it is absolutely not. I mean, this is the filthy 70s in New York City and 80s before, there were like, I mean, I don't think there were even laws against murder. It was not a safe place. Yeah.
It was aggravated assault under,
yeah, exactly. With a bad ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely different time, but it's hard to not feel that way. Us Gen Xers, right? It was just like, man, like we learned so much about ourselves. I mean, me and my friends would get on our bikes and just go tens of miles, all over town. You learn about other people. I think that's how I survived on the road. when I was in comedy for 10 years, because still no cell phones. I was reading off a paper map. But every hairy scenario I got into, I got out of it, not because I could fight or had courage. I just could relate to people. I knew how to read people, and I just would always somehow get out of it. And I think if I would have grown up in this time, I'd have been in trouble. Trying to find the button on my Xbox controller that gives me, how do I fly?
Superpowers. Right, exactly. I don't think I would have survived growing up. I mean, I would have survived, but I am very grateful that I didn't grow up during this time of social media, et cetera. I don't know how kids get through it, but because you've read it, the first chapter is about my 6th grade bully and what she did to me then. I mean, it sucked and really left a mark, but God, think how much more awful it would be if there were social media back then and she had the ability not to just send me an anonymous, like, quote, secret admirer letter that said I walked like a duck, but to spread rumors about me online and have, do what kids do now, which is just devastating. I can't imagine surviving that.
Only going to get crazier with deep fakes and things,
Yeah.
Quick sidestep. Just because taking it back to our business and our world of copywriting and writing, and there are only a handful of people, because I'm really in love with the capabilities with AI and all these things, right? Like I'm surprised, honestly, because I feel like I'm a purist writer in some ways. So it wouldn't shock me if I was eschewing it, but I'm not. I'm really excited about what's possible. But there are literally only 2 writers I can think of that I love reading, that I kind of don't want AI in their world or their experience. And you're one of them.
Thank you.
How do you feel about it?
Wait, who's the other?
Cole Schaefer.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, AI can't do that. No, thank you for that. That's a huge compliment. I'm very curious to know what you've been learning about AI and what you're excited about. I've seen it do some interesting things and maybe make some work a little quicker, but every time I try to do anything with a voice, like try to get it to generate a voice, my voice or any voice, it shits the bed. It can't do it for its AI life. And, I'll say, okay, now write this in the voice of Chelsea Handler. And all it does will add, hey there, Chelsea Handler here with a message from, no, that's not the voice of Chelsea Handler. Or it's like, make it fun. And it'll start, ladies and gentlemen, presenting a product unlike any other. Like, no, that's not fun.
Yeah. You're like edgier and it's like, what's up? Like, whoa.
Right. Yo. Yeah, that's yo. Yeah. You say edgy or New York and it'll say yo. I've seen it add, like, if you tell it to be fun, it'll say, you'll have a hoot and a holler and laugh all along the way. No. Nope.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of my favorite things is that it can't do those things. And right.
Yes,
so
thank God.
Because I don't want to spin off this interview into that discussion necessarily. But what excites me is it properly trained, and we're creating an interface that will put all of our frameworks and trainings at people's fingertips, right? So that's the difference between, for instance, Inbox here is a little different because it is a course, but it's a lot of examples and things. But imagine the way you and I have to teach people who want to be able to do what we do is like we give a training and maybe we give some frameworks and templates and then good luck. So they got a split screen, they got the framework and they're trying to do their best. Now it puts all that guidance at their fingertips. And so they almost can't screw it up. That's one way that it excites me. Not that it replaces them. It's just it guides them as if we were there with them, making sure they don't mess it up. But it's still them who's going to bring the spice to it, bring the voice to it. The other thing is that you don't work with clients anymore. But when you were, imagine that you could create a knowledge base for every client you have. And every time you needed to get back to that client or switch over from one to another, it's like where you left off is there waiting for you. And it's just like, I need to write an email series based on this topic. It can give you like the 60 to 80% of what you would normally sort of the functional part of the email or the sales page. And you, again, are the person who brings the 20% that makes it sparkle, that makes it magic, that only you can bring to it. The ability to be more efficient, those things are, I think, incredible. And it is a great research tool. You can't trust all of its facts. But what I love is it's collaborative back and forth conversation, like Bing has it built in now, right? If you played with that. I think we're going to start saying Bing it instead of Google it in the next 5 years. I really do.
Wow.
I would have never thought that.
That is fascinating. I hadn't heard that before. I'm a little behind on the AI conversation, but that's going to be a big switch.
Big switch. You wouldn't think.
I'm sure Google is our shitting their pants.
Maybe not. Maybe. I trust the beast of Google enough to think they know what's going on. But Microsoft their update to Bing, like they leapfrog Google now. Google feels like a fax result compared to what you can do on Bing now. And I'm sure Google's ready right behind them with something. It's just going to be how quickly can they get there and how unique can it be compared to what Bing just did, So
wow. Do we have to watch out for Ask Jeeves? Is he really stepping up his game? And
he says yo now.
Yo, ask me.
The paperclip. Where do you see the paperclip now?
Right. Yeah. Oh, that thing can really dance now. Like dances hip hop house.
Ask any experienced freelancer and they'll tell you that getting started and landing those first few clients, it's the hardest part. If you're struggling to find consistent work, you want to build more confidence in your skills, or you're just starting out in your freelance journey, don't worry. That's exactly why I created Escape Velocity. It's my step-by-step coaching program for how to kickstart a freelance career, attract quality clients, and confidently deliver great work. Let me help you find and close good gigs so you can quickly launch and grow a successful and sustainable freelance writing business. Learn more at copychief.com/EV. Copychief.com/EV. I'll see you there.
Back to the book. So, okay, we talked about the writing process. I know there's a lot more we could go into there. I know it took longer than you expected. Just in a nutshell, were you so naive going into it retrospectively?
God. Yeah. Do you remember our last podcast conversation? Because I think it was it was probably 2021. And you were excited to talk to me about the book. And I was in a real low point with the writing because I had thought, so I got the book deal in 2020 and had been writing a bunch of stuff and then kept writing and was in a program it was like a workshop style thing where we were in pods and we would submit our chapter, whatever pages, and people would go through it and give positive feedback. Only positive feedback. You show where the power is in the words. And the point of that is not to hone the writing and make it ready for publication. It's really to get you writing more and to create like a buffet of material. But I thought, this is good stuff. And my editor said, okay, now's around the time when you're supposed to give me a couple of sample chapters. So when will you have those? And it's like, pretty soon. I'm going to give you more than a couple. I'm going to give you all this stuff that I've been working on because I think it's pretty good. And I thought this was going to be like, she was going to read it and be like, you know what? This is almost ready to go as a book. This is a book. So I gave her, rather than like 2 or 3 sample chapters, I gave her, I didn't know this, but it was 85,000 words. Wow. And the book itself was supposed to be 75,000, the final product. Wow. And so I basically dumped everything on her, like buried her in manure. And she kept referring to it as the manuscript. And I was like, no, it's not the manuscript. It's just my sample chapters. But she wrote me an editorial letter that started, Dear Laura, I'm sure you're going to have a wonderful book eventually. And then came the but. And it was like, this is all over the place. Where is the voice? What is the point of view? What are you trying to say? Which of these chapters do you actually want to keep in the book because you're going to have to cut a lot of them? Here's one that's working. And I was like, oh my God. I went into a spiral that lasted the better part of a year trying to rewrite this thing. So yeah, when we talked, you're like, I think you might have asked, how's the book coming? A very exciting news about your book. And I was like, oh gosh, let's talk about that another time, maybe. And yeah, so I was naive going into it. I thought that all this stuff, all this material that I had generated was good as it was. I thought my memory and voice and all the details of my writing stood on their own as this is a book. This is fun to read and readable. And it turned out I really did have to put some takeaways into it, some wisdom, some of the stuff that I thought I had the license to leave out. Like this time, in my emails, I always come to a conclusion, arc to some sort of meaning or takeaway, a call to action. But in my book, I don't have to do that. I can write whatever I want. It's my book. I have literary freedom, but that's not the case at all. And now I started reading similar, books in a similar genre, like memoir, personal essays, with a really critical eye. Like all of a sudden I became the judge and I was like, well, I don't know why she's telling me this. I don't know why I just read that. Where's the voice? Where's the POV? And so I started to see mine that way. I was like, okay, she's right. Wow. So yeah, it was a challenge and I didn't get going on it really, like the rewriting of it, until I put off my deadline by half a year, which was kind of a badge of shame for me. It was like, same old Laura, like deadline allergic and always, procrastinating and putting it off. I thought this time I was going to be a new me, but I was not a new me. I was me, and postponed my deadline by 6 months and got back to the rewriting of it and the shaping of it really in February of 2022. And my deadline was April. My new deadline was April 1st. And I got it done, but I really had to sit there and get my butt in the chair every day and work on it, even though it was hard. And even through days where the writing was going terribly. Right. Like Stephen, my husband, would say, how's your writing going? And I would just say, bad. And he had to live with that for a good year. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. A whole year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's intense. I mean, looking back, is it like, thank God I had that editor to guide it? Yeah. It would have been a mess. Yeah.
Yeah. I hated her for it for a long time. And looking back, I'm like, this turned out to be a way better book than it would have been with someone who was lazy or didn't know their stuff, or was just like, seems good to me. It's a fun read. Right. So I am glad that she had that critical eye. I mean, she did hand me a shit sandwich with no bread. I'll give you that. Like shit sandwich, it's like you want compliment, then the shit, then another compliment. Like It should be sandwiched by compliment bread. And there was no compliment bread at all. It was like just a keto, pure shit sandwich. And really hard to digest. It did not taste good. So that could have been done a little more, maybe bedside manner. Yeah. But I am thankful that she did that she was strong on that point. And also she kept saying, where's the intro I've asked for? I keep telling you, we need an intro that sets up the book, sets up the theme of the book, and tells us what it's about. And I felt like, you write an intro at the end. I don't know what it's about. I won't know what it's about till I get to the end of it. And I was right about that. But I also was opposed to writing an intro. I was like, real books this book shouldn't need an intro. Just dive right in. Yeah. And people love the intro. And she was right. It does set up the book. It tells you why you're about to read what you're going to read. And as an intro is supposed to do. And I'm glad that it's in there. And also it's good bonus content.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you were able to give that out. Is that what for early release? Yeah.
Yes. For pre-orders, got people to, it's hard to get people to pre-order a book. They want instant gratification. So you've got to lure them with bonuses.
How's that been going? The marketing of it? A different kind of thing to market.
It is. I think I've been doing a great job. I mean, my publishing team has been super impressed even before I got any kind of media, they'd say, wow, your numbers are really strong. We can't believe your pre-order numbers. We wish every author knew how to do what you're doing. I promised when they bought the book, I did promise, like, I'm going to sell the crap out of this book.
Yeah.
To like try to get them to buy it. And I think I was true to my word. I don't think they deal with a lot of authors who know how to market, or who have an email list,
right,
or who have, following on social media.
Right.
It's usually they have authors who they have to tell, okay, you need to start a Substack, or you need to start building a platform, or try posting videos on TikTok. Like, they're starting from square one. And you and I are in this marketing scene where that is our business.
Right.
It's what we know. Even if it's a different thing from the usual, from a course, the skills still apply. So we in this business are way ahead of the game when it comes to selling. Or we know so much that we don't realize because we compare ourselves to each other.
Right. Exactly.
And I was at a wedding with Amy Porterfield, who's a friend of mine. We were talking about her book at brunch, and it was coming out 2 months. This is 2 months before it came out, or 2.5 months, really. And we asked how it was going. She's like, I guess it's going okay. I've sold 10,000 copies, which isn't bad. And now I'm like, not bad. I'm like, most books don't sell 1,000 copies in their lifetime. So I was setting that, that was my bar. And when my publisher told me, congrats, you've actually sold 1,000 copies, I was like, that's it? No, like, that's incredible. Like, it is. It sounds terrible.
That sounds terrible. I'm so sorry I failed. Would you want the money back?
Exactly.
What would be the thing? I mean, it seems like word of mouth, right? What makes a book go? I guess reviews. I mean, it's the goal. Obviously, I guess New York Times, Washington Post. Those are the lists. And do you have a strategy that can influence that, or is that just word of mouth?
Well, yeah, that, like, New York Times is the bestseller list is the holy grail for any author. Anyone who's like, oh, I don't care about that is probably lying, or they just don't think it's within reach at all. So they don't even think about it. I think that it is within reach, but it's still a really, really long shot. And I want it. Now, here's the thing. It used to be that you could, if you sold a certain number of copies before your pub day or that week, if you sold enough copies, you would make the list. But it's no longer the case. And so I guess there are now humans, as opposed to an algorithm, looking at what you're doing and whether the book is right for the list. And I don't know what the deciding factors are. So that's good and bad. It means that I have a better chance against people who sell 10,000 books. Oh, Amy made the list. I mean, her book is really good. It's called 2 Weeks Notice, and it's a really good book. And so I wasn't surprised when it made the list. Yeah. But I do have a better chance because there are humans behind it. I think I have a better chance.
So it's almost more like a review in a sense, or like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame panel or something, right? It's like,
I think so.
But there's no people. Oh, I don't know what the board is made of, but like in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, at least you have like all the other inductees, or with the Oscars or whatever. It's made up of not fans, but industry people, not just at the higher levels, making political choices, right? There's people with taste going, no, this needs to be considered. Yeah.
Right. Or like the Oscars, where you have the guild, people who are members get the screener. So it's not like that. I think it's a secret thing, a secret process, just like applying to a co-op in New York City. Like, they don't have to tell you, what they talked about or why they rejected you, and no one will ever know. So I don't know what is the trick to getting on the list. I just hope it happens. And so, word of mouth is really important. I think that one of the things that can make a book take off is one friend telling two friends, like the Fabergé Organics commercial, I told two friends and they told two friends, and so on and so on. And reviews. I heard that if you reach 1,000 reviews on Amazon, that your book just starts selling in perpetuity. Like, I don't know how that happens, but apparently that's some magic number. I only heard that from one person. They could be wrong. So that's a holy grail number. Like, getting people to review is really hard. because if you ever review anything, it's not as hard as it is with podcasts. That's nearly impossible. You have to like pass a troll and get away from a minotaur to actually leave a review on the podcast app. With Amazon, it's still a pain. Like you have to log in and you have to come up with a headline, which is a pain in the butt. So it's hard to get people to do that. But that's going to be a key factor. And publicity. Some people say, just get on TV and you're golden. And other people say, TV doesn't move the needle. Nobody buys books from TV. So I think in some, nobody knows. Nobody knows anything.
Yeah. Wow. Really interesting.
The guessing game. Yeah.
That's interesting. But the reason I'm hopeful for you is in the book is because it's just is. I can't imagine somebody reading this book and not telling other people about it. It's just,
thank you.
I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke because you're a friend. It's just, I've told my wife every time I read another chapter, I'm telling her the next day. It makes the dinner table, as I like to say. It makes the dinner table. And the context for that is people you sit and talk to every damn day and have nothing new to tell them. It's so exciting when you have something new to tell them. Yeah. And that's what Tough Titties does. It makes the dinner table. It will make you more interesting for having read it. And it'll make you laugh and remember stories about your experiences. I'll be promoting it. This is coming out the day it opens. So if you're listening, I'm glad to hear that Amazon sales don't not count for the New York Times, because that would be horrible. That's where everybody lives to buy books now, unfortunately, right?
I think
does it matter if people go into a store to buy your book? Does that help? Does that matter?
I think it does help. They're all great. Like I would not tell anyone like don't buy from there. Any place you buy from is great, unless you're buying a used galley, like, the uncorrected proof that somebody got for free and sold back to a used bookstore. That does not help me at all. But anywhere you buy from, if you go into a store and ask for it, and if they don't have it, tell them they must get it in. That's always good. I like to hope that it'll be in bookstores, and my dream is to have it on staff picks, tables, et cetera. So that, that's always a good thing. I think Amazon is a beast. They control so much. And I do think that they count more than any other, only because the Amazon reviews matter. And if you buy it on Amazon, then you are a verified reviewer when you leave the review. But that said, if you are so inclined, by all means, support your indie bookstores, all that kind of stuff. We need those stores to survive. It's all good wherever you want to buy it from.
Get it in your hands. And that's why it was written and worked so hard for. And I know to say, it's such hard work to sit in. It is, though. It's a, gut-wrenching, soul-searching slog of really wanting to get a thing right. Books are still books. Books are really significant things to put into the world, and especially a book like this that is just, again, a piece of your life is something to be very proud of. And I'm thrilled for you, Laura. And
thank you, Kevin.
I hope it's the first of many, but I got a good feeling. I think this thing's gonna go.
I really hope so. And it's funny because, as we talked about, it's not the smart book to write for my business necessarily. Right. It's the obvious one. Right. There's no agenda. There's no find me at talkingshrimp.com and I'll teach you to do the same thing. There's none of that. So it's not obvious, but I do have this hope that people will read it and then say, I got to check her out. Or maybe there's, because I talk about career in there, and it is such a great fit for anyone who feels behind in trying to find their thing or is trying to reinvent themselves and thinks it might be too late. I have this hope that it will inspire them to say maybe that's an avenue for me. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's copywriting. I just want to see what she's doing. And then they end up in my sticky web.
Yeah. If they get on your list, you got them. You got them, because they're only going to get fresh stuff of what they came for. It goes in both directions. If somebody knows you now, they're going to love the book. Yeah. If they read the book and find you and get on your list, they're going to love you even more. So that's the beauty of what you wrote. It's so congruent with everything you've been doing all along. It's just beautiful.
Thanks, Kev.
Clearly, I can't recommend it highly enough. So two good tips here, and this is something I'm going to do. go to your local bookstore if you do such things and request it. Request it. Ask them if, well, you're hearing this on a day, so it's out now. If they don't have it, say, I need Laura Belgray's book. It's say tough titties out loud in front of people, which is fun. And if you buy it on Amazon, please leave your review. Just make the headline say, awesome. There you go. Done.
Mm-hmm.
All you gotta say is
don't
awesome.
overthink it.
Yeah, don't overthink it. And then just say what you liked about it. It's not what you write, it's that you left one. So do that. Let's get her over 1,000 reviews as quickly as possible. And I hope our next interview is about how Laura Belgray made the New York Times bestseller list. But again, that is out of our hands. And either way, this book is going to do a lot for a lot of people. I'm thrilled you wrote it.
Thank you so much. What an honor to hear you say that, because I love your writing so much.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. My book's not going to be nearly as fun, though. It's going to be so serious. Why am I so serious?
No, it's not. You're going to put you into your book, aren't you?
Yeah, I feel like when I sit down, I'm like, I'm going to have a little fun today. And next thing I know, I'm like, and there's the thing, and here's the turning point in your life. I don't know why that's where I go when I sit to write. It's always some big, meaningful lesson thing. I don't know why, but it works. People get something from it. But
yeah, it is. I did find it challenging. This is one thing that we didn't cover. Sometimes it was challenging to channel myself when I was writing the book because it was so permanent, because it's a book.
Right.
And my friend Susie, I would complain about it to everybody all day long. That's how I spent my time. And my friend Susie Moore, whose book is called Let It Be Easy, and that is her approach to life, she would say, but you write emails every day or, 3 times a week. Isn't this just that with a spine? Can't you make it like an email?
Wow.
And I'd be like, I want to so badly. I want to bring out the me that sits down and jots out, cranks out an email, and it's in my voice and it's fun. And there were just days when it's like, why is this so hard? Why is it not coming out that way?
Right.
So you're not alone in like sitting down being like, where's my voice? Why isn't it coming out onto the page?
I'm just going, dude, lighten up. Like it feels good when I'm writing it, but then I'm always like, man, I'm former comedian. Maybe I should stop saying that. It's just, I'm not good at being funny in email. Yeah, you and Chris Orzechowski and Daniel Throsell, these people who are just hilarious every damn day. And I'm like, I'm not even going to try to keep up with that. It's just.
I think your writing's very funny.
Oh, really?
Especially when you're telling a story. When you're like the details, I think the truth is what makes something funny. Right. Well, you know that as a comedian, it's funny because it's true.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a Homer Simpsonism. Yeah. And it is true. And so like when you put the truth in there within the details, like, I don't know whether for instance, when you're talking about, being on the road as a comedian and the hecklers or working as a bellhop for the hotel, the specificity in there is always funny to me.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Those are the moments. And that's, again, what your book is full of. It's such detail. You name the places. There's a great, Roy Peter Clark, he's spoken at my events together. And one of his rules in writing tools is get the name of the dog, meaning,
that's good.
Name the thing. And it just brings more life to it. Don't say, his office was in Hollywood, say it was on Sunset Boulevard if it was, right? Like, that's different, So I got to circle back to the girl in the first chapter. I'm sure people have asked you about this, but it's such a harrowing tale. And you do kind of talk about how that evolved and maybe where she is today. Is she going to recognize herself?
I don't know if she's going to read the book. I'm sure there are people who will tell her, who will ask her, did you read the book?
Yeah.
And I hope that she doesn't. I mean, legal, made me change her name, and so did my fear of her. But I didn't change it that much. But legal looked her up and was like, oh, this woman who as a girl bullied you is now so litigious, and so is her family, that she and her father have sued each other. It's like, wow. So you are changing her name as much as you can. And he's like, you're changing this detail, and you are not saying that she hurt you, but that she caused you pain. Like there were certain words that I had to take out. Yeah.
Interesting. So they're already looking ahead to what she could say is slander.
Yes.
Wow.
Right. And
even though you don't use her name. Yeah.
Even though I don't use her name, if there are any truly identifying details, like I changed her profession.
Yeah. Yeah.
changed it just ever so slightly. It's as dull as her true profession, but not identifying.
A different beige office.
Exactly. With a different Dell computer.
All right, Laura. Well, thank you for making time, and couldn't be more happy to support this and see where it goes. It doesn't matter where it goes. It's here, and just have the experience with this book, and I promise you won't regret it. So Laura Belgray, everybody, you know where to find her, talkingshrimp.com, and I can't wait to talk again some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Kev.
Hey, don't forget your goodies. Head over to copychief.com/copychiefradio to get some great free stuff to help you put the things you hear on the show into action for your business. copychief.com/CCR.